Zara Velvani stood in the communication center of New Harmony Colony, her crystalline skin shimmering with worry. The soft blue glow that normally covered her body had turned pale, almost white. Around her, other Villani moved in graceful silence, their long limbs carrying them like dancers across the polished floors. For 3,000 years, the Villani had lived in peace on New Harmony. They grew food that sang in the wind, built cities that hummed with gentle music, and spoke to each other through beautiful harmonic sounds. War was something they had read about in old galactic records, but never experienced. Violence was as foreign to them as darkness was to a sun. That morning had changed everything. The message had come from space, harsh and mechanical. The voice belonged to something that called itself the Korthak Dominion. Zara had never heard such an ugly sound before. Where Villani voices were like crystal bells, this voice was like metal scraping against stone. Soft ones of New Harmony, the message had said. You will surrender in 7 of your planet's days. Your kind will serve as food and labor for the Dominion. Resist, and we will burn your world to ash. You have no weapons. You have no soldiers. You have no hope. The transmission had ended with images that made Zara's people weep. Burned planets. Enslaved populations. Species that had been wiped out completely. The Korthak looked like giant insects made of metal, with sharp claws and eyes like black stones. They moved in swarms and destroyed everything beautiful they found. Zara's supervisor, an elder named Thane Morlani, had called an emergency meeting. His harmonic voice was heavy with sadness as he spoke to the colony leaders. We have no way to fight these creatures, he sang in their melodic language. Our people do not know violence. Our ships are for farming and research, not war. We can try to evacuate. But where can we go? The Korthak have many ships. They will follow us, wherever we run. The meeting had lasted for hours. Some wanted to surrender and hope the Korthak would be merciful. Others wanted to scatter across the galaxy and hope some might survive. A few suggested sending messages to the Galactic Council, but everyone knew the Council moved slowly and would not act in time. Zara had stayed quiet during most of the meeting. She was young for a colony administrator, only 200 years old. But she had spent much of her life studying old galactic databases, learning about the thousands of species that lived among the stars. As the elders argued, Zara remembered something she had read long ago. Deep in the old files, there were warnings about a species from a dangerous world. The files called them humans and said they came from a place called Earth. The warnings were severe. Extreme caution advised when dealing with humans, one file had said. Origin world classified as Class 12. Deathworld. Species shows unprecedented aggression and survival instincts. Military capabilities unknown, but presumed extreme. Do not provoke. Do not threaten. Do not engage unless absolutely necessary. Another file had been even more frightening. Human vessels have been observed refusing to retreat even when facing impossible odds. Their protective instincts toward their own species appear limitless. They have been known to sacrifice entire fleets to save small numbers of their people. Approach with maximum caution. Most species would have been terrified by such warnings. But as Zara read the files again, she noticed something the other species had missed. The humans were not described as conquerors or destroyers. They were described as protectors, dangerous, yes, but dangerous to those who threatened others. The files mentioned something called rescue operations, where humans had traveled vast distances to save their own people. There were reports of human ships arriving at disaster sites before anyone had even called for help. One report mentioned humans defending a mining station against pirates, even though the miners were not human. Zara made her decision. While the elders continued to debate, she quietly returned to the communication center. Her fingers, long and delicate like crystal branches, worked at the controls. She had to try something desperate. She composed a message in the basic galactic trade language, making it as simple as possible so any species could understand it. Her voice, normally used for singing gentle melodies, now carried desperation. This is New Harmony Colony. We are the Villani people. We are peaceful farmers and artists. We have never hurt anyone. Bad people called the Korthak are coming to destroy us in 7 days. We have no weapons and no soldiers. We do not know how to fight. We are sending this message to anyone who might hear it. Please, help us. We have children who just want to sing and grow food. We have elders who have created beautiful art for thousands of years. We do not want to die or become slaves. If there is anyone out there with the strength to help peaceful people, please come. We will remember your kindness forever. She paused, then added something that felt important. We know humans are called dangerous, but we hope that means dangerous to bad people, not good people. If any humans can hear this, we trust you more than we trust our fear. Zara sent the message toward the edge of known space, where the old files said human territory began. She broadcast it on all frequencies, hoping someone would hear it. Then she sat back and waited. Around her, the colony continued its normal life. Children played in the crystal gardens, their laughter like tiny bells. Artists worked on sculptures that would sing in the wind. Farmers tended to crops that glowed softly in the evening light. None of them knew their world had 7 days left. But somewhere in the darkness between the stars, Zara's message traveled at the speed of light toward a species that had never met a Villani, had never heard of New Harmony, and had no reason to care about strangers in danger. Except for one thing the galaxy was about to learn. Humans always had a reason to care. The message flew through space, carrying hope toward the unknown. Admiral Park Min-jun was drinking coffee in his quarters when the emergency alert sounded. The coffee was terrible, as always on military ships, but it reminded him of home. He set down the cup and walked quickly to the communication center of the human monitoring station at the edge of known space. "What do we have, Captain Kim?" Min-jun asked as he entered the room. Captain Kim Jae-hyun, his second in command, was standing over a communication console with a worried expression. "Sir, we picked up a distress signal about 20 minutes ago," Kim replied. "It's not from any human colony. The language is basic galactic trade, but the sender identifies as something called Villani, from a place called New Harmony." Min-jun frowned. "Villani? Never heard of them. What kind of distress?" Kim played the message. As Zara's desperate voice filled the room, Min-jun felt a familiar tightness in his chest. He had heard many distress calls in his 30 years of service. But something about this one was different. The speaker sounded so young, so scared, so completely helpless. 7 days, Min-jun said quietly when the message ended. "How long ago did we receive this?" "The transmission lag suggests it was sent 3 days ago, sir. That gives us 4 days before these Korthak arrive at their location." "Korthak," Min-jun repeated. "Run that through our databases. See if we know anything about them." While Kim worked at the computer, Min-jun called his senior staff to an emergency meeting. Dr. Yoon Hee-jin arrived first. She was their best xenobiologist and cultural specialist, a small woman with sharp eyes who had studied alien species for most of her adult life. "Doctor, what do you know about a species called Villani?" Min-jun asked. Dr. Yoon's face lit up with recognition. "Oh, the Villani. They're mentioned in some of the old exploration reports. Peaceful agricultural species, very advanced in art and music. They communicate through harmonic frequencies. Their society has no concept of violence or war. They've been isolated for thousands of years." "No concept of violence at all?" "None whatsoever, Admiral. Their entire culture is built around creation, not destruction. They're probably incapable of hurting another living being, even to defend themselves." Commander Choi Tae-ho, the head of their Marine battalion, entered the room just as Dr. Yoon finished speaking. He was a big man with scars on his hands from a dozen rescue operations. "Marines ready for deployment, Admiral," he said automatically, then noticed the serious expressions around him. "What's the situation?" "Mana." Min Jun played Zara's message again. As it played, he watched Choi's face harden. The commander's jaw tightened when the message mentioned children and elders. "How far to their location?" Choi asked. Kim looked up from his computer. 4 days at maximum speed, sir. But Admiral, I found something disturbing about these Korthak. They're not in our official databases, but there are reports from independent traders and explorers. The Korthak Dominion is a slave-raiding organization. They specialize in attacking peaceful species who can't fight back. Slavers, Min Jun said, his voice turning cold. What else? They're systematic about it, sir. They consume the resources of entire worlds and use the populations as forced labor. The reports suggest they've destroyed at least 30 civilizations in the past century. They prefer to target species with no military capability. 1. Doctor. Yoon spoke up. Admiral, the Villani would be perfect targets for these creatures. They probably have no idea what slavery even means. Their society has no framework for understanding this kind of evil. Min Jun stood silent for a moment, thinking. New Harmony was outside human territory. Officially, it was not their problem. The Human Defense Fleet was supposed to protect human colonies and trade routes. Getting involved in alien conflicts could create diplomatic problems. But Min Jun remembered why he had joined the military in the first place. His grandmother had told him stories about the old days on Earth, when humans had learned that evil happened when good people did nothing. She had taught him that strength meant nothing if you did not use it to protect those who could not protect themselves. Captain Kim, send a message to Earth Command. Inform them that we are responding to a humanitarian crisis involving a peaceful species under threat from slavers. Tell them we are invoking Emergency Protocol 7. Kim nodded. Emergency Protocol 7 allowed fleet commanders to take action in extreme situations without waiting for orders from Earth. It was rarely used, but it existed for moments exactly like this. Dr. Yoon, I want everything you can find about Villani biology, culture, and psychology. We need to understand these people if we're going to help them. Commander Choi. Begin preparing your Marines for evacuation operations. We may need to move a lot of civilians very quickly. Buddy. Video. Ase. Video. Admiral. Dr. Yoon said carefully. The Villani message mentioned that they trust humans despite our reputation as dangerous. Do you think they understand what they're asking for? Truder. C. Trusted the starter. Truder. Do you think they understand what they're asking for? Min Jun thought about that. Human ships were built for survival in the harsh conditions of space. They were designed to withstand asteroid impacts, solar radiation, and the violent storms that existed between stars. Other species often called humans Deathworlders because they came from Earth, a planet that tried to kill everything that lived on it. What other species did not understand was that humans had not become dangerous by choice. They had become dangerous because they had to survive, and they had learned that survival meant taking care of each other. Doctor, I think that young Villani who sent the message understands something that most of the galaxy does not, Min Jun said. She understands the difference between being dangerous and being evil. Sir? Kim called out. I have the fleet locations. We can have 12 ships at New Harmony in 4 days. Most of them are rescue and support vessels, not combat ships. Perfect, Min Jun said. Send the orders. All ships to New Harmony, maximum speed. Tell the captains we're going to meet some new friends and some old enemies. As his staff hurried to carry out orders, Min Jun looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, a species that had never known war was facing extinction. They had called for help from strangers they had never met, trusting in the hope that someone would care. Minjun intended to make sure that trust was not misplaced. The human defense fleet began to move toward New Harmony, carrying hope into the darkness. Warlord Krexthak stood on the command bridge of his flagship, watching New Harmony grow larger on the viewing screen. The planet looked soft and green, covered with gentle cities that sparkled like jewels. It would make an easy conquest. The Korthak warlord was pleased with his choice of target. The Villani had not even tried to run away or call for help. Their pathetic message a few days ago had been ignored by everyone, just as Krexthak had expected. No one cared about weak species that offered nothing valuable in return. "Begin the harvest," he commanded his officers. His voice was like grinding metal, harsh and cold. Around him, other Korthak prepared their ships for the attack. They moved like efficient machines, their metal-covered bodies clicking and whirring as they worked. The Korthak fleet consisted of 50 ships designed for raiding and capturing. They were fast and deadly, but not heavily armored. They did not need to be. The species they attacked never fought back. As the first wave of Korthak ships entered the planet's atmosphere, something unexpected appeared on their sensors. "Warlord," called his navigation officer, "we have ships approaching from the outer system. 12 vessels, unknown configuration." Krexthak was not worried. "Probably traders or explorers who want to leave quickly. Ignore them, unless they interfere." But as the unknown ships came closer, the Korthak sensors began providing disturbing information. These ships were huge, much larger than Korthak vessels. They looked like they had been built to survive crashes with asteroids. Their armor was incredibly thick, and their power signatures were enormous. "Warlord," the communication officer said nervously, "we are receiving a transmission from the unknown fleet." "Put it on screen," Krexthak ordered. Admiral Park Minjun appeared on the Korthak viewing screen. He was a human, though Krexthak did not know what humans were. Minjun looked calm and serious, like someone delivering a weather report. "This is Admiral Park Minjun of the Human Defense Fleet," the human said in clear galactic trade language. "You are attacking a peaceful species that has requested our protection. You will withdraw immediately or face the consequences." Krexthak laughed, a sound like metal being crushed. "Human Defense Fleet? I have never heard of humans. You are fools to interfere with the Korthak Dominion. We have 50 ships and thousands of warriors. Leave now, or be destroyed." "We have 12 ships and 300 people," Minjun replied calmly. "We are not leaving." The transmission ended. Krexthak stared at the screen in amazement. 12 ships against 50? 300 people against thousands? These humans were either insane or incredibly arrogant. "Attack the human ships," he ordered. "Destroy them quickly, then continue with the harvest." The first engagement lasted exactly 37 seconds. 20 Korthak attack ships fired their best weapons at the human vessels. The weapons were designed to punch through normal ship armor and disable engines quickly. They hit the human ships directly. Nothing happened. The human ships absorbed the weapon impacts like they were gentle rain. Their armor did not even show damage. The Korthak weapons, designed to destroy normal vessels, could not even scratch the surface of ships built to survive the deadly environment of space around a death world. Then the human ships returned fire. The Korthak had never seen weapons like the ones the humans used. They were not designed to destroy quickly like normal military weapons. They were designed to disable and capture. Korthak ships found their engines stopped, their weapons offline, their life support systems disrupted but not destroyed. "What are these creatures?" Krexthak demanded, as he watched his ships become helpless one by one. But the humans were not interested in fighting. Even as they disabled Korthak ships, their other vessels were flying toward New Harmony, ignoring the battle completely. On the planet's surface, Corporal Han Dong-wook led a squad of human marines through a Villani city. The city was beautiful beyond anything he had ever seen. The buildings seemed to grow from the ground like crystal trees, and everything hummed with gentle music. But the music was interrupted by the harsh sounds of Korthak ground forces. The insectoid raiders were moving through the city, capturing Villani civilians and loading them into transport ships. Dong-wook saw a group of Korthaks surrounding a building that looked like a school. Through the crystal walls, he could see small Villani children hiding inside, their crystalline skin flickering with fear. "This is Corporal Han," he spoke into his communication device. "I have civilians in immediate danger, requesting permission to engage." "Permission granted," came Admiral Minjun's voice. "Protect the civilians. Capture the raiders, if possible." Dong-wook and his marines moved quickly. The Korthak were so busy with their prisoners that they did not see the humans approaching until it was too late. Human weapons, designed for the dangerous wildlife of Earth, stopped the Korthak raiders without killing them. Inside the building, Dong-wook found 20 Villani children and 3 adults. They were huddled together, singing a soft, sad song. When they saw the humans, they became very quiet. "It's okay," Dong-wook said gently, though he did not know if they understood his language. "We're here to help. We received your message." One of the Villani adults, an elderly teacher, stepped forward carefully. She spoke in halting galactic trade language. "You are the humans? The dangerous ones from the warnings?" "Yes," Dong-wook admitted. "But we're not dangerous to you. We're dangerous to them." He pointed toward where the Korthak had been. The teacher looked confused. "But why did you come? We are strangers to you." Dong-wook thought about how to explain it. "Because you asked for help," he said simply, "and because you have children who deserve to grow up safe." Above the planet, Warlord Krexthak was beginning to understand that he had made a serious mistake. These humans fought like nothing he had ever encountered. They disabled his ships without destroying them, as if they wanted to capture rather than kill. Their ground forces moved through Villani cities like ghosts, appearing wherever Korthak forces tried to take prisoners. Worst of all, the humans seemed more interested in saving Villani lives than in fighting Korthak. Every time Krexthak tried to force a confrontation, the human ships would ignore his attacks and continue their rescue operations. "Warlord," his communication officer reported, "the humans are evacuating entire Villani settlements. They are moving faster than our capture operations." Krexthak realized with growing alarm that he was losing. Not because his ships were being destroyed, but because his prey was being taken away from him. The humans were turning a simple harvest into a complex rescue operation, and they were winning. For the first time in his career, Warlord Krexthak began to wonder if he had chosen the wrong target. The battle for New Harmony had been going on for 6 hours, but it was unlike any battle Warlord Krexthak had ever fought. The humans refused to behave like normal enemies. Every time he tried to force them into a proper fight, they would ignore his ships and continue rescuing Villani civilians. When he attacked their rescue shuttles, the human warships would appear and disable his vessels without destroying them. When he threatened to burn entire cities, the humans would somehow evacuate those cities faster than his ships could attack them. It was maddening. In the crystal gardens of New Harmony's capital city, Corporal Han Dong-wook knelt beside a small Villani child who had not spoken since the attack began. Her name was Silmira, and she was about the equivalent of a 6-year-old human. Her crystalline skin, normally bright blue like her elders, had turned completely white with fear. "Hey, little one," Dong-wook said softly, offering her a piece of human chocolate from his emergency rations. "It's okay now. The bad people can't hurt you anymore." Silmira looked at the chocolate with wide eyes, then up at the human's face. She had never seen a human before, but she was not afraid. Something about Dong-wook's gentle voice reminded her of her grandfather's lullabies. Dr. Yoon-hae Jin arrived with a team of medics and cultural specialists. She had been studying Villani physiology during the journey, and she was worried about how the stress of evacuation might affect them. "Corporal, how are they doing?" she asked, kneeling beside him. "Most of them are okay physically," Dong-wook reported. But this little one hasn't made a sound since we found her. The adult Villani say their children communicate through harmonic songs, but she won't sing. That. Dr. Yoon nodded sadly. Trauma can affect different species in different ways. For Villani, losing their voice might be like a human losing their sight. She looked at Silmira with compassion. We need to get them somewhere safe where they can heal. Above them, engineer Nam Subin was working with a team of Villani technicians to restore their communication networks. The Korthak had damaged many of the harmonic amplifiers that the Villani used to coordinate their society. Try the frequency modulator now, Nam said to Thane Morlani, the elderly Villani who supervised the communication center. The crystal networks began to hum with gentle music again. Throughout the city, Villani voices rose in harmony, sharing information about safe evacuation routes and missing family members. For the first time since the attack began, the Villani could coordinate their response. Remarkable, Thane sang in his melodic language, then switched to galactic trade speech. Human Nam, your people understand our technology better than we expected. All technology sings if you know how to listen, Nam replied with a smile. Your harmonic networks are beautiful. They're like music that carries information. But the moment of peace was interrupted by alarms. On the main view screen, they could see Korthak ships approaching the city from 3 directions. Admiral, Captain Kim Jae-hyun's voice came through the communication system. Korthak forces are converging on the capital. They're trying to trap the remaining civilians. Admiral Park Min-jun's response was immediate. All ships, defensive positions around the capital. Do not let any Korthak vessel reach the city center. Commander Choi, how many civilians do we still have on the surface? Approximately 3,000, sir, Commander Choi Tae-ho replied from the ground. We can have them evacuated in 2 hours if we're not interrupted. You'll have the time you need, Min-jun promised. Warlord Krexthok was becoming desperate. His careful raid was turning into a disaster. More than half his ships were disabled, and the humans had evacuated most of the Villani population. His remaining option was to threaten the planet itself. Human Admiral, he broadcast on all frequencies. You have interfered with Korthak operations for the last time. Withdraw immediately, or I will order my ships to destroy this planet. Better no slaves than slaves protected by Deathworlders. Min-jun's response came quickly. Warlord, you're welcome to try. But you should know that we've already evacuated 87% of the Villani population. Destroying the planet would only prove to the galaxy that you're exactly the kind of evil we came here to stop. You cannot have evacuated so many so quickly. Krexthok raged. We've had help, Min-jun replied calmly. The Villani are remarkable people. Once we restored their communication networks, they organized themselves. They know their planet better than you do. It was true. With their harmonic networks restored, the Villani had begun coordinating evacuation efforts with efficiency that amazed the humans. They knew every cave, every hidden valley, every secret path. What had seemed like helpless panic became organized resistance. But Krexthok was not finished. Even if you save most of them, some will die when I destroy this world. Will your conscience accept that? Admiral, Min-jun considered the threat. Warlord, you're assuming something that isn't true. What assumption? You're assuming you're going to survive to destroy anything. For the first time, Krexthok felt real fear. The human's voice had not changed, but something in it suggested that the conversation was over. Around New Harmony, the human defense fleet began moving into attack formation. The ships that had seemed content to play defense suddenly showed their true capabilities. Weapons that had been used to disable, now prepared to destroy. Admiral, Dr. Yoon's voice came from the planet's surface. Silmira just spoke. She asked if the bad people are really going away. Min-jun smiled grimly. Tell her yes, Doctor. In the Crystal Gardens, Silmira had begun to sing again. Her voice was small and trembling, but it was growing stronger. Around her, Other Villani children joined in the song. It was a song about hope returning, about friends who came from far away to help, about the light that pushes away the darkness. The song spread through the harmonic networks, reaching every corner of New Harmony. Even the Villani being evacuated in human ships could hear it and add their voices. For the first time since the Korthak arrived, New Harmony was singing again. And in the space above the planet, Admiral Park Min-jun prepared to ensure that the song would never be silenced. The final confrontation lasted only minutes, but its effects would change the galaxy forever. Warlord Krexthak made his last mistake when he ordered his remaining ships to attack New Harmony's capital city directly. The moment his weapons fired toward the surface where civilians sheltered, Admiral Park Min-jun's fleet responded with overwhelming force. The Korthak ships, designed for raiding defenseless targets, simply could not survive against vessels built to endure the lethal environment around a death world. In less than 10 minutes, the entire Korthak invasion fleet was either destroyed or surrendering. Krexthak himself was captured alive when his flagship's life support was disabled. As human marines took him into custody, he asked the question that had been bothering him throughout the entire battle. "Why?" he demanded. "Why did you come so far to help strangers? What do you gain from protecting these weak, singing creatures?" Commander Choi Tae-ho looked at the defeated warlord with disgust. "You wouldn't understand," he said simply. "You're a predator. We're protectors. That's the difference between us." On the surface of New Harmony, the evacuation continued for 3 more days. But it was no longer desperate. With the Korthak threat eliminated, the humans could take time to do things properly. They helped the Villani organize temporary colonies on safer worlds, provided medical care for those traumatized by the attack, and began the process of making New Harmony secure. Dr. Yoon Hae-jin spent most of her time working with Villani healers to help the traumatized civilians recover. She was particularly concerned about the children like Silmira, whose voices had been silenced by fear. "Their harmonic communication is deeply connected to their emotional state," she explained to Admiral Min-jun during one of their daily briefings. "When they're afraid, they lose the ability to sing. But when they feel safe, their voices return stronger than before." Action 1. "And how are they feeling now?" Min-jun asked. Dr. Yoon smiled. "Listen for yourself." Through the communication center's speakers came the sound of thousands of Villani voices raised in harmony. They were singing a new song, one that had never been heard before. It was a song about strangers who became friends, about help arriving from the darkness, about the day the dangerous people from the warning files turned out to be the kindest people they had ever met. In the Crystal Gardens, Silmira was teaching Corporal Han Dong-wook how to hum along with Villani melodies. The little girl's voice was now bright and clear, and she had appointed herself as the official Human Villani Cultural Exchange Coordinator. "Human Dong-wook," she sang in her bell-like voice. "Why do your people help strangers? Elder Thane says most species only help their own families." Unwook. Dong-wook thought carefully about how to answer. "Well, little singer, humans learned long ago that the best way to keep your own family safe is to make sure all families are safe. When bad people hurt good people anywhere, it makes the whole galaxy more dangerous." Silmira considered this with the seriousness of a child trying to understand grown-up concepts. "So, you help us to help yourselves?" "In a way, yes. But also because it's the right thing to do. And because when we heard your voice asking for help, we couldn't ignore it." 1. The real surprise came 3 weeks later, when other ships began arriving at New Harmony. Word of the human rescue operation had spread throughout the galaxy, and delegations from dozens of species came to see the aftermath. Ambassador Ri Chang-ho arrived from Earth to handle the diplomatic aspects of what was becoming a galactic incident. He was a patient man with decades of experience in interspecies relations. But even he was unprepared for what he found. The temporary refugee camps that the humans had established were nothing like normal military installations. They looked more like cultural festivals. Human engineers worked alongside Villani artisans, to create beautiful shelters. Human cooks learned to prepare Volani food that would sing when the wind passed through it. Human children from nearby colonies played with Volani children, creating music that neither species could make alone. Admiral, Ambassador Rhee said during his first meeting with Minjun. Earth Command is very interested in your decision to invoke Emergency Protocol 7 for a non-human species. There are some concerns about the precedent this sets. I understand, Ambassador, Minjun replied, but I think when the Council reviews what happened here, they'll agree it was the right choice. The Galactic Council is sending representatives, Rhee confirmed. Species from across known space want to understand how 12 human ships defeated a 50-ship Korthak fleet so easily. It wasn't the ships, Minjun said. It was what we were fighting for. And the Galactic Council meeting took place on New Harmony itself, in a crystal amphitheater that the Volani had built specifically for the occasion. Representatives from 200 species attended, including many who had previously feared humans as dangerous Deathworlders. Zara Veldhani, the young administrator who had sent the original SOS message, was chosen to speak for her people. She stood before the assembled delegates, her crystalline skin glowing with confidence instead of fear. Honored representatives, she sang, her voice carrying clearly through the harmonic amplifiers. 3 months ago, my people faced extinction. We sent a message to the only species we thought might be strong enough to help us, even though we were afraid of them. She paused, looking directly at Admiral Minjun, who sat with the human delegation. We asked the dangerous humans for help because we had no one else to ask. What we discovered is that they are only dangerous to those who threaten the innocent. To us, they have been nothing but kind, generous, and protective. The representative from the Altarian Republic, a species known for their cautious nature, raised a concern. The humans' military capabilities are clearly formidable. How do we know they won't use this power to conquer, rather than protect? Before any human could respond, Silmira stood up in the audience. The little Volani girl walked to the center of the amphitheater and began to sing. Her song told the story of the rescue from a child's perspective. She sang about being afraid, about hiding from monsters, about kind strangers who brought chocolate and safety. She sang about human soldiers who cried when they saw frightened children, about human engineers who learned Volani art, about human doctors who worked day and night to heal traumatized minds. As she sang, other Volani voices joined her, creating a harmony that brought tears to the eyes of delegates from dozens of species. The song grew to include every act of kindness the humans had shown, every moment of compassion, every choice to help rather than harm. When the song ended, the amphitheater was silent for a long moment. Finally, the representative from the ancient Zephyrian Council stood to speak. The Zephyrians had been part of the galaxy's leadership for thousands of years, and their words carried great weight. In all our records, the Zephyrian said slowly, we have never encountered a species that measured victory by the number of lives saved, rather than enemies defeated. Perhaps it is time for the galaxy to learn new ways of thinking about strength. The resolution passed unanimously. The Galactic Protection Treaty established humanity as the official guardians of peaceful species threatened by hostile forces. More importantly, it created a new principle in galactic law. Strength existed to protect the weak, not to exploit them. As the delegates departed, Ambassador Rhee found Admiral Minjun standing in the Crystal Gardens where Dongwook had first met Silmira. Admiral, I think Earth Command is going to approve your actions, Rhee said with a smile. In fact, they're talking about expanding the defense fleet. Good, Minjun replied. Something tells me we're going to be busy. In the distance, human and Volani children played together, their laughter mixing with harmonic songs in a melody that had never existed before. New Harmony was safe, its people were healing, and the galaxy had learned that sometimes the most dangerous species could also be the most trustworthy guardians. And in deep space, human monitoring stations continued to listen for distress calls from species they had never met, ready to answer any SOS that called for help. Because that was what humans did. They listened, they cared, and they came when called, even if they had to travel to the edge of the galaxy to do it.